This recording is on the base 2 number system and its relation to the base 10. In this recording we're going to try to write a number in base 2 or recognize numbers written in base 2, evaluate a number in base 2 as its value is given in base 10, count in base 2, and add numbers in base 2. Let's begin by looking at the relationship between base 10 and base 2 to see how the base 2 works. In a base 10 number system there are 10 number symbols, the digits 1 through 9 plus the 0 digit. In a base 2 number system there are only 2 digits, the symbol 1 and the 0 digit. In the base 10 system each digit multiplies a power of 10. The power of 10 it multiplies depends upon its position. So for example, if you look at the 2 here, the second 2 in our number, this is called the tens position because the 2 is multiplying the power 10 to the 1. So that's 2 tens or 20. If you take a look at the 1 in the same position in the base 2 number below, and you can tell it's base 2 because I've written the base right here, base 10, base 2. This is not multiplying a power of 10. This is not a tens position, it's a 2's position, and it's multiplying the number 2 to the 1. So going back to our base 10 number, this 3 is multiplying 10 to the 4, so that's 3 10,000s or 30,000. The 0 is multiplying 10 to the 3, so that's 0 thousands. The 5 is multiplying 10 to the 2, so that's 5 hundreds. The 2 is multiplying 10 to the 1, so that's 2 tens or 20. And this last 2 is multiplying 10 to the 0. 10 to the 0 is 1, so that puts that in the units position. That is just a 2, and we get the number 30,522. Now the second number, the 10110, is written base 2, so let's see what its value would be. The 0 says we have 0, 2 to the zeros are 0 ones. But this number says we have 1, 2 to the 1 or 1, 2. Here we have 1, 2 to the 2, which is a 4. We don't have any 2 to the 3s, so we don't have any 8s, but we have 1, 2 to the 4, which is a 16, so this number would be 22. Now what I'd like now is for you to hit the pause so that you can evaluate this base 2 number below. It's 11011, so write that down on your paper. When you're ready to evaluate it, just hit pause. So go ahead and hit pause now. Okay, you're back, I assume, because you've evaluated it. Let's see how you did. This first one down here is 1 times 2 to the 0, so that's 1, 1. This is 1 times 2 to the 1, so that's 1, 2. This is no 2 to the 2s, so that's no 4s, but this is 1, 8. And this is 1, 2 to the 4th, so that would be 1, 16. So 16 and 8 is 24, 26, 27. You should have gotten 27. Let's take a look now at counting in the base 2 system. I'll go ahead and erase this leftover from an earlier attempt. When you're counting in the base 10, you have your first 10 digits just come from the 10 digits of base 10. That gets you all the way from 0 to 9. When you get to 10, you've run out of individual digits. So you start back over with a 0. And to show that it's a 10, you carry a 1 to your next position. Then you go 1, 2, 3 in the 1's position till you get up to 19. Again, you've run out of digits, so you start back over at 0 and carry another 1 over to the next position. Let's see how that works out base 2. In base 2, 0 is part of base 2, so you just represent a 0 with a 0. A 1 is part of a base 2 system, so you just represent 1 with a 1, but now you're out of digits. These are the only 2 digits in base 2, so when you get to 2, you have to do something else, and you start over. You start with a 0, you carry a 1 to the next position. And this means 1 times 2 to the 1, which is 2, plus 0 times 1, 0 times 1, so that would be a 2. Then you add a 1 to get a 3. but you're out of digits again, so you have to start over. So you put a 0 here, but when you carry over, you get a 2. There is no 2 base 2, so you have to put another 0 and carry over again. And so this says 1, 4 plus no 2's plus no 1's. So that is a 4. And then to get a 5, you just add 1, but now you're out of digits again. So to get a 6, you start over, you carry a 1 to the next position. Let's see if that's a 6. It says no 1's plus 1, 2 plus 1, 4. So that is a 6. To get a 7, you just add another number on, another single digit. Now what about to get an 8? Well, you're out of digits again, so you start with a 0, you carry a 1, which is a 2, so you put a 0 again, you carry a 1, which is a 2, we don't have a 2, so you put a 0 again and you carry another 1. And this says no 1's, no 2's, no 4's, but 1 8, and sure enough, that's an 8. And so to get a 9, you just add another digit, etc. And that's how you count. If you'd like these to all look like groups of 3, you could put zeros in front. 0, 0, 0 is still 0, 0, 0, 1 is still 1. Or if you want them in groups of 4s, you can put zeros out there till you get groups of 4s. Now the last thing I'd like to talk about is adding in base 2, but let's first recall the basic rules of adding in base 10. If I'm adding 723 to 489, I start off by adding 3 to the 9 and get 12. That's too big. There's not a 12 in the base 10 system. It only goes from 0 to 9. Now 12 is too bigger than my base, so I put down a 2 and I carry 1 over to my next position. 3 plus 8 is 11. My base is only 10, so that's 1 bigger than 10. So I put down a 1 and carry to my next position. That gives me 8 plus 4, which is 12. Again, that's 2 bigger than a 10, so I put a 2 and I carry a 10 over to my next position, and that gives me the number 1212, or 1212. Addition is done very similarly in base 2. The base 2 addition, and what we're going to do is we're going to add the 2 numbers that we converted before. We converted the 10110, that was a 22, then the one that you did was a 27. So when we add them up, we should get 49. So let's start adding. In the first position, 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 is part of the base 2 system, so we just put a 1. In the second position, we add a 1 to a 1, we get a 2. That's not in the base 2 system, so we put a 0 and we carry the 1. Now when we carry the 1, we get a 2 again. 2 is not bigger than our base of 2, so that's why we're putting just a 0 here, but again we have to carry, and again we get a 2. Well, we have no 2, so again we put a 0 and again we carry. Now this time when we carry, we get a 3. A 3 is 1 bigger than 2, so we put a 1 here and we carry a 1 over, and that gives us the number 110001, which is supposed to be 49. Let's see what it really is. A 1 in this position is a 1 unit, so that's a 1. A 0 in this position says we have no 2 to the 1, so we have no 2's. This says we have no 4's. This says we have no 8's, but this says we do have a 2 to the 4, which is 16. And this says we have exactly 1 2 to the 5, which would be 32. We add them up, 9, 4, we get the correct answer, 49. Now in part 2, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be starting with a base 10 number like the 723 and converting that into a base 2 number, and then you're going to see how to take a base 2 number and multiply it by a power of 2. So I'll see you in base 2 numbers part 2, and that completes our podcast.